Hi, everyone. My name is Monique.
And I'm Naveen from Before You Play.
And we went to GenCon.
Yes, our big summer activity of the year, GenCon 2024, is now over and we are home safely.
Yes, we just arrived a few days ago, so it has taken some time to recalibrate to Pacific Standard Time because Eastern Time, even though it's only 3 hours difference, that's a lot. That's a big difference.
We're night owls though, so it's kind of nice because once we got used to the East Coast time, which I did, I got used to it pretty quick.
Oh, I didn't.
And so coming back now, I'm able to wake up at a decent time in the morning, and then we're going to bed earlier. So we're trying to keep this momentum going. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to be talking about our experiences, how the convention went. But before we do, we actually have a giveaway. This giveaway is being hosted by Incredible Dream Studios, and in honor of its Target release, we are giving away one copy of the Bloom edition of A Gentle Rain.
Yeah, Monique did a solo playthrough of this, so this is a solo game if you've not heard of it. If you're interested in seeing Monique's play, we'll leave a link up here. The version that we played, or she played, is the smaller box, so this is something completely different from that.
Yes, so this version is in Target stores, and it basically has these upgraded flower tokens.
So this giveaway is going to be US and Canada only. If you are interested in entering, all you have to do is comment down below, #Bloom. One word, #Bloom, that's it, and then you'll be entered in, and then we will try to get in contact with you. We will be posting the winner in the description of the video, as well as commenting on your particular comment, so just be aware of that. And of course, with all giveaways, bots and scammers and spammers are going to be out there.
Yes,
you will not be
always out there.
contacted by WhatsApp. You will not be contacted by any other method other than checking that description. So
Yes.
please be vigilant about that because it is very, very tempting.
And make sure you check the description because we'll include all of the details of the giveaway there, including when the giveaway ends. So we will probably be just selecting the winner after the giveaway ends. So if you see any comments before that, it's most likely going to be a scammer.
Fake.
So anyway, if you'd like to enter this giveaway, don't forget to leave a comment with #Bloom. And since you're leaving a comment already, you might as well tell us what games you've been playing. And thank you so much to Incredible Dream Studios for hosting this giveaway. All right, so GenCon 2024. Now, if you have no idea what we're talking about, GenCon is the largest board gaming convention in North America. And it is held every year. For the last very long time, it's been at the Indiana Convention Center in Indiana. And we went this year, and it's only been our second time ever going. It is wild. It is a wild convention. It draws so many attendees every year. And this year, it was actually completely sold out. The convention itself is held over the course of 4 days, and you can do a lot at this specific convention. There are other conventions such as Essen Spiel, which are primarily trade shows, which means you're basically just buying. You know, there's some demoing of games, but you're for the main part, you're buying games.
Most of the new releases,
Yes.
especially the European releases, come out at Essen Spiels. But here at GenCon, many games get released, especially in North America, of course. And there's demo plays there.
Yes.
There's open plays. The city really embraces the convention. So all the neighboring hotels have different events and things that you can be participating in. Ballrooms are open for open play. And so there's kind of a nice balance between trade show, very similar to Essen Spiel, but also open play and just kind of experiences as well.
And for anybody who's in like the content creation space or in media and such, our convention experience actually starts the day before on Wednesday. There are some events where you can sort of preview the games outside of the convention floor and also meet other people. And at these events, we did get to play and preview a couple of games. So some games we just got to see and some we actually got to play. A couple of games that stood out was the new upcoming Lego game. There is a Lego board game where I think it's called Monkey Palace.
I think so, yeah. So the theme is basically there's a monkey that's mischievous. He has destroyed the palace, and now you're trying to recreate it and rebuild it, and you're trying to make the palace as tall and high as possible to score the most amount of points. We got a really brief demo kind of run through of it.
And we also played a couple of silly games. So I actually played a kids game called Turbo Kids. So if you're familiar with a game called Zombie Kids Evolution, which was an award-winning sort of campaign style game.
Yeah.
But it was directed at kids, but it's still fun for families. This is in that line of games. It's from Scorpion Masqué, but in this one, it's a racing game where the way that we played it was we played it in 2 pairs, and basically one player has a blindfold on and a marker as well as a racing sheet. The other player is going to control your marker by moving your thumb like a joystick.
Yep.
And it was really silly. You're basically racing to see who can cross the finish line first. I was awful at it. If you cross some of the sidelines, then you basically have to restart at your last checkpoint. Sort of like Super Mario, if you play that, and whoever finishes first wins. And there are a ton of different maps, so it is just very silly. And then we both were able to demo a party game called Task Team.
Task Team, yeah.
So this is from Gigamic, and it is very silly. You played it a lot more than I did.
I did, yeah. So there's basically a deck of maybe like 200 cards, and on the card, one person is going to draw it, and it's going to say some sort of task. In the game comes a set of dice, these different colored tokens, a spinning top, a tape measure,
all sorts of random stuff.
of random things. And so essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to read the card out loud, and then it'll say what equipment you need for this particular task. Who's involved in this task? Is it just going to be one person? Is it the entire team? And you are going to be doing different various party games. Something as simple as roll 2 dice and then estimate the distance between the 2 dice.
I think you had one where you had to close your eyes and you were holding a tape measure, and you just had to estimate a certain length, and you stop when you think that you're about there.
I think it was like pull exactly 18 centimeters long.
Yes.
And whichever team is closer gets the point.
Now, we're American, so everything was in centimeters.
We do the imperial system, but
yes, so it was extra challenging for us, but very, very silly. Up to 18 players can play that game, and some of the activities that I wasn't involved in required you guys to go outside the room. Like there were some running.
There were some like racing elements.
Yeah, there's racing.
Race towards
there
somebody.
Were dice stacking.
That one I think is definitely group dependent. So if you don't like party games or being in a hot seat, that one may not be for you, but for us, we really enjoyed it.
As for the convention itself, like we were mentioning, it had record-breaking attendance, so there were a lot of people. It was hot. We were wrong. I think we mentioned in our last video that it was supposed to be cool.
In the summer, never check the weather 3 weeks in advance. It's
3 weeks is
accurate.
It's asking for a lot.
It was asking, yeah.
So it was really hot. The acai bowls that we really loved from the last time we went, we couldn't find it this time.
I hope it's there still.
If it was there and we missed it, please let us know where it was, because we actually looked everywhere. And there were a ton of food trucks. They were amazing. They even had Filipino food. So we had Filipino food one of the days. Lucas Oil Stadium is always, I think, open every year. So it was still great to be able to go in there, play games, and eat food.
Yeah, it's nice. Right where they had the truck situated, you can either take it back to the hall, you can eat outdoors, or you can take it right into the stadium. And so it's nice to just have that kind of options as to like where to spread out after you get your food. So we went to the stadium pretty much every time to eat because it was AC'd, obviously. And then how cool is it to just be in the stadium where the Indianapolis Colts play?
It was okay.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Now, the first game that we played while we were there was a game of Fromage with one of the designers, Ben Rosset, as well as Dan from the Game Boy Geek. We did not know that we were going to be doing this. A lot of things that weekend sort of just happened. And I think a lot of people have that experience at GenCon, where a lot of things that you're not really planning to do just sort of happen.
Yeah.
We just happened to be in the all play room, and Ben Rosset was there, and he came up and said hi, and we both had a very almost like a starstruck moment, because one of our favorite deduction games ever is The Search for Planet X, and Ben Rosset is one of the designers of that game.
Yeah, he basically said in 1 hour, if you want to demo Fromage, we have a copy here. And,
yes, one copy.
One copy. And if you don't mind playing a 4-player game with Dan of the Game Boy Geek, then he was willing to teach it. And we love Dan. Dan is a great guy.
Yes.
And so we jumped at that opportunity, and we got a direct 1-on-1 or 1-on-3 teach from one of the designers themselves.
It was awesome. Yeah. We got to play the entire thing, which was really fast. The game plays really, really quickly. If you're not familiar with this game, Fromage is a game all about cheese making. It has a worker efficiency mechanism where players are all simultaneously placing workers on their wedge of this circular board. So the board is divided into 4 quarters. and you're only ever placing workers on your wedge, but you all do it at the same time, which is what makes the game go quickly.
It's a perfect square table kind of game or
Yes.
a round table game.
Right. And once everyone's done, you make your cheese because that's what you're doing. There are 3 different types of cheese that you'll be making. And then when everyone's done, you rotate the board so that you are now working on a different wedge of the puzzle.
Yeah, almost Lazy Susan style, where you kind of rotate it, and then now you have a new wedge, and then you're going to be placing out workers again. So the worker efficiency basically happens where all your workers basically have a triangular piece of cheese underneath them, and you don't get that worker back until it actually faces you. So you have to kind of make sure that you have enough workers so that when that new rotation comes towards you, you have workers to actually place out and take actions and make cheese.
That is going to be dependent on the quality of cheese that you make. The lower the quality, the quicker your worker will come back to you. The higher the quality, the longer it'll take. And so you basically need to be efficient with your workers and make sure that you're never out of workers, right?
You got to find a way to have a worker at all times.
It is interesting. You know, I do feel like it might not be for everyone because that is the main game. The main game is in being efficient with your workers and trying to really maximize each of the different wedges because each wedge scores in a different way. It's like having 4 different mini games, but there are also orders. So there's a bit of order fulfillment as well.
Yeah, like one wedge is the whole thing is like this map of France, and you're trying to do an area control aspect. Another one is kind of like you're trying to get as many cheese in a row, so you're trying to create like a straight line. Another one might be you want to get your cheese to pair up on various tables, and so on and so forth. So the decisions that you're making early on in the game, you're going to have to try to capitalize them as the wedges come back because you're only going to be able to influence that wedge 1 in every 4 turns. Game plays in 30 to 40 minutes, so because of that simultaneous worker placement, you only have maximum 3 workers, but you can ever place only 2 out at once.
Yeah, it's very quick, and I imagine the more you play it, the better that you'll get at it. And so each player's player board is also slightly asymmetric in the sense that there are some buildings that you can build that'll allow you to do things depending on which board you have. And the game also comes with more of those buildings that you can change up the building style, I guess, to make it more interesting every time you play. So I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, we loved it.
That's definitely my style of game. I like feeling like I'm efficient or inefficient if I'm not doing so well, and that is Fromage in a nutshell. So it also has a really, really interesting art style that I find to be really beautiful.
Yeah, so that was just demo only. I believe it'll be coming out in the coming weeks. I think backers have still not received their copies
Or in a couple
yet.
of months, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe an Essen release. I'm not exactly sure, so just be on the lookout if that sounds interesting to you.
We also got to play a full game with Ilya and Tyler of Cavre of Forrest Shuffle with the new Alpine expansion. And we played that at the Asmodee area. It was an interesting experience because some of us are extremely good at the game. Tyler is an expert at Forest Shuffle, and some of us have less experience, so the scores were large.
You did very well for as much experience you have relative to them. I did horrible, absolutely horrible, and I'm sitting to the right of Tyler,
right?
So I'm probably accidentally just feeding things into him because I'm so focused on I don't have that much experience, so I'm just going to try to make this efficient. So I'm probably allowing points just to kind of go by.
If you're not familiar with Forest Shuffle, this is basically a game where you're building out your forest with cards. It's entirely card-based. It's also on Board Game Arena, I believe. And this is the reason why we're playing it is because they've released a new expansion called the Alpine expansion that adds all new cards. And I honestly think that it was a great expansion for it. And I think if you are a fan of the original game, then you'll probably you'll like the expansion. It's kind of a no-brainer. In addition to that, we also demoed the new Cyberpunk game that is going to be crowdfunded soon, and we are going to be covering it, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, that's the same designer and publishing company as The Witcher Old World.
We also played a full game of Railroad Tiles, which is also going to be crowdfunded soon. This comes to us from the same publisher and designers as Railroad Inc., except it's not a roll and write.
Horrible Guild, yeah.
Horrible Guild. So if anybody out there loves Railroad Inc., just like I do, I love Railroad Inc.
Loves that one, yeah.
It is still one of my favorite roll and writes. This is a tile laying game where you are basically doing much of the same in terms of building out your city, but this time there is a drafting mechanism.
So the game's really about positioning your tiles so that you can score both in-game and end-game, because there is an element of at the end of the game, you're going to score points depending on how big your largest square or rectangle is. So you don't want too many just branching locations, because then you're not going to score as many at the end.
Yeah, so it is a little bit different. We were told that for people who don't enjoy Railroad Inc. because of the roll and write aspect of it, and the multiplayer solitaire aspect of that game, then this might be more your style, but stay tuned for that.
We also, of course, did some after-hours gaming. And speaking of Pegasus Spiele, they have a reprint of a game called Witness.
Yes.
Which is a game that we have actually in our collection. We've had it for a very long time. It was this particular copy from Yastari Games. It was super out of print, or is super out of print for a very, very long time. So it's nice to see it come back into print by another publisher, because this game is a 4-player only game.
This is one of my favorite games
ever
of all time. It was, I think it was on our top 50
It's probably
last
there,
time,
right?
and it's probably still going to be there.
Yeah.
Because like Naveen was mentioning, it's a 4-player only game, and it is case-based, where we are all trying to solve this mystery. We are sleuths, and we are trying to work together to solve a crime that's been committed.
We all have a piece of the puzzle of the crime, and we have to cooperatively work together to communicate properly, which is the challenge in the game.
Yes.
In order to solve the case.
Yeah, it's telephone deduction.
Yep.
Each player in this game, each player has a handbook that pertains to their own character. And if, for example, this is just an example, maybe the case has to do with footprints, and there are 4 suspects, then maybe you might have like just one suspect set of footprints, and Naveen has another suspect. And in the game, we're supposed to whisper our clue to another player, and then that player is going to relay their clue and the clue that I gave them to another player. And the clues are set up in a way where they're so similar that you kind of confuse them because you are also not allowed to take any notes in the game.
Right.
So whenever you're hearing these clues, you can't actually write them down. You have to wait until all 4 rounds of clue sharing have ended. Then you can brain dump on a notepad, and once everybody is done taking their notes, then you actually get the questions because you don't know them ahead of time.
You don't know what you're looking to answer when you go into giving the clues to each other. So at the very end, after you charted down your notes, then question 1 gets revealed, and everybody has to try to answer it. And so it's kind of one of those games where you score points depending on how correct you are.
Yeah.
The challenge comes in when you're trying to remember what you know. You're trying to remember what was just told to you, and now that 2 pieces of information which sound kind of like almost like a tongue twister, you have to now relay that to somebody else.
Yes.
All while getting also information back to you. It's really, really fun. We have a good time with this one.
Yeah, it's super silly. I'm
so
sure
bad
this
at
is group dependent.
Oh, yeah.
So the original game has 64 cases in it, and it was out of print for forever. And so just at this past GenCon, we saw that Pegasus Spiele sort of brought it back in print. They have released a version of Witness where they've handpicked cases from the original, but there are 3 different boxes with 8 cases in each. And I believe they've added a few that are new, so I don't know exactly what the breakdown is of each, but I know that I believe there are 8 cases per box. And they've gotten rid of the booklets. It's all in cards. It's card-based, and there's a lot more narrative stuff to it. So anywho, that was really fun because Tyler and Ilya, it was their first time playing Witness, and I was so shocked to see it there and so excited.
Yeah, we had no idea. They pulled it out, and then we're like, Witness? This isn't Witness.
The
Witness.
Yeah. So if you have been wanting to play Witness, that is sort of your chance.
Yeah.
It was very, very silly, and we were awful
It is
at
so hard.
It's
That
so
game is
hard.
but really
It's so
fun, though.
And then outside of those, we played mainly smaller games. So we played a small card game from Amigo called Kabanga?
Yeah.
Is it Kabanga?
Kabanga. Kabanga, for sure.
This is a card game that I actually quite liked.
Yeah.
It's one of those casual card games where you have 4 different suits. There are 4 different suits in the game.
Yeah, and you have values on each side of the different suit, and you're basically on your turn, you're going to play one single card from your hand onto either the left or the right of any one of the 4 suits.
Yes.
And your goal is to try to shed your entire hand over the course of the game.
Yeah.
And you want to try to play a card that is going to keep the gap as narrow as possible on each side of that specific suit. So if there's a 15 on one side and on the other side it shows an 11 and you play like a 14, there's no gap between 14 and 15.
Right.
Because if anybody does have a card that fits within that gap, then they can yell Kabanga and basically shed their card from their hand, forcing you to draw cards equal to however many people had distributed or dropped off cards. So
Yes.
if 3 cards were shouted as Kabanga, then now on my turn, yes, I got rid of 1 card, but I have to draw back up to 3. Again, the goal of the game is to shed your entire hand so that you can score the lowest amount of points.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It is a very simple card game. Pretty much all of us around the table really had a good time with it. And, Kabanga is a little bit of a harder word to remember. So that morphed into all sorts of things over the course of the game. But
yeah, we played this
really
with Jeff and Jamie over at Foster the Meeple, as well as the Board Game Garden, Jenna. So we all just kind of casually, just at the very end of the day, just sitting back, just discussing kind of like how our experience was of the convention. It felt really, really nice to just sit around and play just this kind of casual
Kawabanga.
Kabanga card game. And so it was nice. It's a nice little casual game that is good for families.
Speaking of hot games, there were a ton of games that were really, really hot. We'll name a few of them, but I'm sure we're going to be missing out on some. I know Capstone, the Fate of Roanoke. Pagan, Fate of Roanoke.
That was on our top 10 most anticipated. Also, Pirates of Maracaibo.
Yes.
Those are the 2 big ones that they were featuring at GenCon.
Yeah, and from what I understand, Fate of Roanoke was really, really hot. The Op really killed it with Gnome Hollow. They were selling out of that. I don't know, did they sell out of it completely?
I think they said they sold out, yeah.
They had a huge balloon gnome flower exhibit outside of the main hall where you can actually walk into the trunk, and they were constructing it as the weekend went on and on. At the start of the convention, I was like, I have no idea what this is going to become because it's just a bunch of brown balloons. And then by the end of it, it was this fully fleshed out display
really
that you
nice.
can walk inside, and it was really cute. We were told that somebody was even able to wear the gnome as like a suit and walk around.
This is a balloon suit,
These are
essentially. Yeah,
balloons.
it's like a full-on, and it looks very similar to the gnome that is on the cover.
What else was hot? Landmarks, Arcs, of course. Endeavor Deep Sea, I believe, was really hot.
Rock Hard,
Rock Hard,
1977.
1977. And a few games from All Play, including a really, really surprise hit for me, which is a game called Things in Rings. This is a game that was introduced to us via our Patreon meetup.
Yes.
We had a Patreon meetup at GenCon, which was absolutely lovely. It was a really, really good time. We were able to introduce a couple of games to people, including Just One. There are a few people there who had never played Just One before.
I love that game, yeah.
And That's Not a Hat.
That's Not a Hat. A very polarizing game.
Yes.
If you've not played that one.
Yeah. But Things in Rings is a new party-ish game from All Play.
This is the game we've played the most since from GenCon to now. Yeah.
It has Dr. Seuss-like artwork. And it's very surprising because the game from All Play that I was really excited about was Message from the Stars, which is one that we haven't played yet.
We got a copy.
We were
did
able
get
to
a
bring
copy
home with
there.
us.
Yeah.
And this was not on my radar at all until we played it. So basically, there are 3 circles that form a Venn diagram, and it's made of string. And one person is the knower. And that person will have 3 categories of cards in front of them. Each card pertains to one of the 3 rings. One of them is a contextual category, which basically talks about the context of words in society. Like, it can be found in a house, stuff like that. One has to do with the actual words.
The makeup of the word.
The makeup of the words. Maybe how many syllables the words are.
How many
or
letters of the word.
what type of letters are in the word. And the third thing is the actual attributes of the item. So maybe it's made of metal or it's heavy, stuff like that. And everybody else, they have a hand of cards, and their goal is to just get rid of their entire hand.
shed.
And on your turn, you play 1 card to this Venn diagram. Now, the problem is you have to play it correctly. If you are correct, you get to keep on playing more cards. If you are incorrect, then you draw up a new card, and the knower will place the card in its correct position.
Similar to a game called Timeline, if you've ever played that game, in terms of how you're trying to shed your cards, and then also, the card that you played will still convey information to everybody else.
Yes.
So even though you might have got it wrong, the person who knows will place it correctly, and now everybody knows a little bit more about these 3 different rings.
Similar to That's Not a Hat, I do think that it might be a love it or hate it game.
It could be, yeah.
So there are a few things to the game. The first thing is it is very silly. Really, really silly. I mean, it has Dr. Seuss artwork, so it's really not to be taken too seriously. It is a bit more of a party game, but I loved it. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because you're engaged the entire time. You know, I historically have not been a huge fan of games such as Codenames. I love Codenames Duet, but not the original. And the reason why is because there is so much empty downtime in between turns. This one, you're constantly trying to figure out what are these three categories? And the categories are really difficult. There are three different levels of categories. There's easy, which are very, very easy,
But can be hard.
but can be hard
Yeah.
depending on what your else is going on.
Yeah.
And then there's medium and hard. And that jump between easy to medium is quite large. So there is a bit of pressure on the knower to make sure that they are conveying these answers properly. And some of it is subjective.
Yes.
So that is a difficulty. You're like, well, it is can be found in a house, but like, it's
One
not
of the
my
ones
house.
I had was like, is flammable.
Yeah.
And it's like, technically, you could burn anything.
Is a volcano flammable? We had this debate.
I said yes.
It
A volcano's flammable.
combusts on its own, though. So it's up to it's
Yeah.
subjective, as you can see. But the thing that is also neat is it can scale. So if you're playing with younger players, or maybe this is your first time playing it, you don't have to do all three categories.
Right,
You
you
can
can just
start
have
with just
two overlap,
two
yeah.
circles. So anyway, that is Things and Rings. This is one of my favorite games from Gen Con this year.
This will be going to Strategicon with us,
Yes.
100%.
And by the way, right after our Patreon meetup, we just randomly, we were talking about these like random occurrences at Gen Con. We randomly stumbled upon some really lovely folks who taught us how to play Crokinole.
Yeah, finally
We've-
got to play it.
We've never played Crokinole before.
Actually, I had no idea how it was played.
Yeah.
I could identify the board, and that was pretty much it. And I know you flick it like harems. That's all I knew about the game.
Yes. And the fact that it's very, very old, it's like it's one of the
1800s, I think.
older games on BGG,
Yeah.
and it's well loved, and it's a dexterity game. That is literally all we knew. So some lovely people taught us how to play. We played a 2-player game, then we played a 4-player game, and we also just happened to be in an area
I
of
think they're having a tournament.
where they were having a Crokinole
Yeah.
tournament.
Very, very challenging game, but also you can see a lot of different strategies kind of develop as we were being taught the game. We were like, oh, okay. Oh, so you can try to do that, but so that's going to be hard to do that because
Yeah.
I'm going to put myself in a tough spot. So
So who knows? Maybe we'll have some Crokinole
yeah,
content in the
I
future.
hope so. That would be nice.
We also brought home our first trading card game, which is
Yeah.
Neopets Battle
Neopets.
Dome, because I played a ton of Neopets
did.
when I was a kid.
I had never heard of it until this game came out.
Totally my IP.
Yeah.
Naveen was like, so is this like a mobile app? We're like, oh, Naveen.
Apps weren't even invented. back then.
Neopets.com. But anyway, that's about it. There were a ton of games at the convention, both that I'm sure we're missing a bunch that we were able to see and maybe even play. But if we talked about all of it, we'd probably be here all day. So all in all, the convention was wonderful. I don't know what it was specifically about Gen Con this year.
Definitely this
but-
experience was better than the one 2 years ago.
And for me, it was one of my favorite convention experiences so far.
Yeah.
We got to see magic.
Oh, yeah.
Caleb
Up close, yeah.
is a really, really good magician who does a fundraiser, a charity magic show, I think every year on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a wizard. He's not a magician, he's a wizard. I'm convinced that he's not doing magic.
He
He's
did some
just
up close and
doing
personal
spells.
card magic that was like, whoa. We were all like, that's impossible. what he did.
yeah.
Like one of us is a plant and is in on it because that is insane.
No,
what
the
he was able
table
to
is
do.
a plant.
Yeah.
The table swaps
Yeah.
the card.
I
Like
don't know.
he was amazing.
Amazing,
If
yeah.
you have the chance to go to Gen Con and he is doing this charity
We highly
magic show,
recommend it.
go
Highly, yeah.
just drop your plans and go see him because he's amazing. But seriously, thank you all so much to anybody who we were able to meet over the course of the 4 days. There are people from all over the world, like we were mentioning at the beginning of the video. We've made a lot of friends from different countries, and each time we get to see them in person, it's like, I don't know when I'll be able to see them again.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah.
So we would just feel very fortunate to be able to share, these memories with all of these people. And thank you so much to all the people who we were able to have conversations with. Some of the nicest things that people have ever said to me in my entire life were said during Gen Con.
Yeah.
We even brought home something for Dexter.
Oh yeah, he got a blanket.
Yeah.
A nice soft blanket. Once we
Yes.
felt it, we were like, no matter what, maybe we'll have to leave a game behind. Dexter
Right.
will get this. So
Yes, our luggage was overweight, but the blanket made it home. It was in celebration
did.
of Oh My Pigeons. We even have a little pigeon stuffy that Dexter wants to destroy.
He was looking for it all day yesterday.
But there you have it. That was GenCon 2024 for us. And next stop is going to be PAX Unplugged.
Yes, we've booked our flights and our hotel. So we are set to go to PAX Unplugged,
Yes.
which will be in early December in Philadelphia. So hopefully we can see you there.
Now that we're back home, we have been hitting the ground running with content. Stay tuned for the Suhi series, which is going to be released next week.
It's been filmed. Now it just needs to be edited.
And again, for anybody who is interested in a copy of the Gentle Rain Bloom edition, all of the details are in the description below, but make sure you leave us a comment with #Bloom down below.
Thank you all so much for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please consider subscribing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.